Earlier today, Major League Baseball announced sports betting suspensions for 5 players, including a lifetime ban for 1 player, Tucupita Marcano. And with that, we are combining forces. Giants and A's all together here. Laura Britt, Sean Estes, Shooty Babbitt, and Brody Brazil for a broader conversation about betting and Major League Baseball. Just on the high-level surface, do you think that Major League Baseball has done enough to make sure that players realize betting is a no-no?
I don't think they have, Laura. If you ask the players and the coaches what's going on in spring training, I mean, typically, Shooty will tell you, in spring training, there's always a topic of discussion that MLB comes in and talks about. A lot of times it's used to be actually gambling, but with illegal gambling and the mafia and all that kind of stuff. And now it's like social media and not getting scammed on emails and what to take pictures of and what not to take pictures of. There hasn't been discussions about gambling. There's Rule 21 that's always there in the clubhouse. Everybody knows about that. But in order to actually educate the players on the consequences that they can face if they do gamble, which we saw today what those are, and also really talk about addiction in general, right? I mean, gambling, it can become an addiction, just like alcohol. I grew up in Nevada. I know. I saw it firsthand with friends and family. It was legal in Nevada. It's an addictive thing. So you go in, you talk to the players about addiction, you talk to players about the consequences, and really you talk to players that you don't really have a lot to gain. I mean, as we saw with these 5 guys, nobody's making any money on it either, right? So to me, it looks like it's more of it's an easily accessible thing to do. They've made gambling extremely easy with your phones right now to just put in an account, put in some money, and then make bets at your fingertips. So really, they do have to go in and educate the players now on all the things that I just mentioned.
You know, I'm not going to sit up here and plead the fifth and act like I don't know better, and the players and everybody else associated in baseball doesn't know better. There is policy now, and every year baseball sends out things for sexual harassment, different policies with gambling. I just got off the computer yesterday for about 2 hours, or not 2 hours, 25 minutes, going through the exercise and understanding everything has something to do with gambling in baseball. But rule number 1, I don't care what level it is, if it's batting practice, if it's home runs in the All-Star game, it's a fantasy baseball game, any player or anybody working in the game understands that you are privileged to information of so many things that have something to do with gambling, and you know, and especially the players, there's so much that's going on right now. And with the Ohtani thing, right away, every organization brought to their attention, I guarantee you that they don't want this coming to their organization. And the first thing they try to do is put out the fire and make sure that everybody understands. So it's amazing. Marcano, I scouted this guy in the Padres organization. He was over there with Ruiz, and he's one of these kind of players that plays with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, never really profiled at a certain position. But it's just like scouting players. Sometimes you don't know if it's immature or unaware or just bad makeup here. So it's so deep. When the Black Sox scandal came out, you know, you never knew what's going to happen in sports anymore. But I always feel like the game is always ahead of the circumstances. And am I surprised? Absolutely not. And as we see, it's going to be more and more. And I think the reason why this is such a topic of conversation now, because the reason why they never allow gambling in sports, because this is what they were afraid of. And it's just like people that cheat. They pay people to catch people that cheat. So they were prepared, and they thought that they could do enough. But I'm glad they're doing what they're doing to a certain degree. And we have to be careful about how we talk about this, because it's going to affect so many people's lives. This one person that got caught that's getting suspended indefinitely, not the smaller guys, but the one guy is going to send a message through all of baseball, getting you to understand there is zero tolerance. And it's unfortunate this young man is going to wear it for a whole lot of people.
They're kind of the sacrificial lambs, if you think about it, because you brought up a good point, Shooty. You said just 2 days ago you're filling out this stuff about gambling, right? These apps have been around, and gambling's been legalized since 2018. I mean, now we're just being reactive rather than proactive, right? So obviously we're probably going to see some more topics during spring training in regards to gambling, and just like I said, educating the players, because you mentioned it. There's so many different personalities, and to me, this is just straight stupidity, right? I mean,
absolutely.
If you have your name attached to an account and you're betting on baseball and even on your own team, you have to understand, and I think everybody does if you have any common sense at all, that you're going to be tied to it because it's being regulated, it's being tracked. there's nobody to blame but these players. But I think as a whole, they need to be educated a lot better.
The 5 players today, none of them are necessarily the names or faces of Major League Baseball, but this story is so big, and the ramifications of it and maybe the future ripple effect of what happened today and what was announced today, we'll see what it brings for time to come. What I'm curious about is that these players were betting on not only baseball, but typically they were in the minor leagues, or they were rehabbing, or they were recovering, and they were betting on their own Major League affiliate. If you had told me they were betting on football games, or they like to bet on the Masters or something, and there was some other thing they had, I'm curious they were betting such small amounts on their own sport with their own team. You ever hear about that saying, don't blank where you eat? It's kind of what they were doing. And that part to me just does not make a bunch of sense. And to your point earlier, Sean, the amount that they were betting, I mean, Marcano had 387 baseball bets, 150 grand is what he wagered. That's a big number. Michael Kelly wagered $99.22. He won $28. All of this for $28. And Andrew Saalfrank, right? So you talk about the success of betting and, well, does he know something? That was your point earlier. Does he know something? He's on the inside, he's privy. He had 28 baseball bets. You know how many he won? 5. What does that go to tell you?
Well, you just never know. I think a question was going to be asked, and I won't jump to that question, but I've been in the minor leagues. I understand how some of these guys are living. $741,000 is a lot of money to blow over some. What did we read about the one kid, Marcano? He bet 4% of $80-something thousand that he won.
Yeah.
So he has a problem, not so much of gambling.
He's a bad gambler,
He needs some help. You know, and I think
Well, that
that's
seems
the
to
thing.
be a theme.
Right.
You know,
But that's gambling in general.
Right.
Exactly. So how do you identify, how do you help somebody that's having those problems and you don't know about it? When these kids can do all the things that they can now, when they don't have to go anywhere. You know, when I was a younger man, we could play football, we can play parlay cards. We knew the local guy that had the cards is $15, $20. You didn't have to go to a legal place to get that. But now, since it's legal and you've got so many illegal people, they just can't keep up. And young people make young mistakes. And I guarantee you this young man going to look back one day and realize what he's done and the implications that it's going to be in his life, man, and he's not going to be able to come back from this.
Yeah, Shooter, you're starting to touch on it a little bit. You wonder how ingrained is the betting culture within Major League Baseball, Brody?
I think it's obviously growing. And I don't know, and Sean kind of alluded to this before, we're only probably seeing the tip of the iceberg here. I mean, if they caught 5 people today and the whole Shohei Ippei thing is water under the bridge, if we're just moving on from that, do you really think they got everybody? And again, all the bets that they were talking about today were from 2020 to 22. So how about the last couple years? I guess I'm just here to say that I don't think they got to everybody, but they probably tried to get to these 5 and make the example out of them. So I don't know that we understand that. I'm also here to say baseball's got a huge conflict of interest. They are partnered up, just like a lot of media networks are partnered up with betting institutions and gaming operations. So they want to make this accessible to fans, but at the same time, you got to be careful with your messaging and how you push this and the responsibility aspect.
It's not going away.
I agree.
It's not going away.
You just got to be more careful about
I mean, you could go to Congress, but Congress are their politicians, and they're reaping the benefits of this as well. I mean, there's a lot of money to be had. Obviously, baseball wouldn't get involved unless there was. So that's not going away. But like, how are we going to nip this in the bud, right? I think that's the question. It's going to be there. It's going to be accessible. It's going to be even easier. You can bet in game now. You can sit there and watch a game and bet, you know, what's going to happen. That's how easy it is. I mean, my 18-year-old son, you know, he can get an account through his mother or his father, and he can bet. You know, it's just it's way too accessible right now. So, like I said, the only way you can do it, I feel like, is if you go in and you educate the players, you scare the crap out of them when it comes to spring training. You obviously have these 5 guys that have been kind of the sacrificial lambs. The Shohei situation, you know, I'm not going to comment on that because, like, I don't know. I have my opinions on all that situation, and Ippei probably took the fall for Shohei in this situation. But you can't have a guy. That's what it can't get to. Is you can't have your marquee players
Face of Major League Baseball.
You can't have them being suspended. So.
Shohei is guilty of just one thing. Ignorance.
Ignorance?
I trust Shooty, but I don't trust Shooty with all my dollars in the bank account.
$16 is missing out of my account, Shooty. $16 million? Come on.
Yeah, and you know what, though? As you say, it's not going to go away. Neither are the ways to catch people that are doing it. I mean, you have so many ways to track people by their phones and everything else. You got artificial intelligence coming.
You know about AI?
Man, I know everywhere
What are you talking about, AI?
people know where we
talking
are.
about AI
if you have
earlier.
a cell phone, if you look at it, people know what you're saying, and you ain't even said nothing. I mean, that's just how far advanced they are. They know what you're thinking before you even say anything.
Do you agree, though, that there's probably more out there doing this that just haven't been caught yet? I don't mean to narc anybody.
Absolutely.
Right, there you go.
Why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me why wouldn't it? And I have no knowledge because, first of all, if you did know somebody was doing this, I mean, I don't know, I'm a little older than Sean, but if you knew something about or heard about it, you probably didn't. I mean, you just didn't think, you may have thought maybe somebody was doing it, but if you did and you knew somebody was doing that and you have a problem, I never had to pull anybody to the side and say, hey man, you need to get yourself checked because of this gambling thing. Okay, most of those guys you didn't know anything about. Now the dope addicts and the drug addicts and them kind of guys, you knew who was doing that. But they've taken this to a whole nother level right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know one guy that I played with, and I never would actually throw him under the bus at this point anyway. But I can honestly tell you, not one guy did I feel like had ever bet on baseball or the team that he was playing on. Now, guys bet on other sports all the time, but you'd have to go through a bookie to do that, which is illegal, obviously, in the Ippei situation.
It happened in the NBA this year. They suspended a different player for life because he was doing prop bets in games on himself and taking himself out of the game so he couldn't meet the bets
That's
that
an extreme.
he had placed. I'm just saying, if baseball gets to that point, we are talking about the Black Sox of 1918.
Well, Ippei we keep bringing up, and just to get everybody up to speed, Ippei Mitsuhara is the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, face of Major League Baseball. He recently pleaded guilty to bank and tax fraud charges. He now faces a maximum sentence of up to 33 years. So now, does that send the message? Do you think that's the punishment fit the crime, to send the message that this isn't okay?
Well, I think for illegal, gambling with bookies, yes, because I think the players have to realize that people talk. Nobody can keep a secret. Like, if you think that you're doing something on the sly, even if you have a friend of a friend that's betting for you, there's too many guys in that bookie's book, right?
Right.
And the bookies usually have a big mouth anyway. So it's going to get out at some point. And it got out in this situation. And now Fletcher with the Angels is also being investigated because he had allegedly, done some stuff for the book. Because all the names are going to come out. It takes one. We saw it with the steroid scandal with the Mitchell report. Yeah. I mean, people talk. They want to find out. They think it's cool that they have a Shohei Ohtani that's betting with them, or whoever it might be.
Well, and it's a lot of money.
With the big name.
They'll give them a bigger line of credit if it's an Ohtani line of credit.
Do you think that people have bet on baseball as it appears that they are now as much in the past?
I don't.
It wasn't as available as it is now.
Yeah.
Like, because you had to go get a bookie or you had to have a friend, and like it was a bigger process to do, right? But then you're also afraid that that guy would say something, right? I mean, we all up here, we have really solid moral compasses. We would never do that. Right?
I wouldn't speak for yourself. I can't bet on baseball.
No,
I can't even talk about betting on baseball.
I'm not trying to preach here, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't do it, and I don't know many guys that would, but you'd have to go to longer lengths, to extra lengths to get that, to make that happen and not get caught. And it was also, to be honest with you, that was addressed in spring training a lot with guys of my generation. They brought Michael Francesa in, who was part of a gang member. His main, part of the mafia, his job was to recruit players, to take them
to the mafia?
Well, not to the mafia, but
I'm like, wait,
recruit them.
We got to keep going.
No, he would.
What kind of show is this?
We had some good nights at the club, though. I mean, I'll tell you that. But hey, blackmail's a rough thing. No, but but they would educate the players on this. This is what to look out for. And you know what? It scared us from it. I mean, that's the thing.
To your point, Shooty, I feel like the education's there, and maybe they're going to up it. I'm surely
it's
they
there,
will
Laura
now.
Britton.
But
it is there. Trust me, it is there. I guarantee, especially with the younger kids. And the older guys know better, so it's not the last time.
Just don't say bet that to end this. Don't say bet that. That's a bad way to end this.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
No.
We would never do that.
probably,
Brody, Shooty, Sean, thanks. Great conversation.